Based on what you now have reviewed about judicial process, when is the first time in the Scottsboro Boys trial, the Scottsboro Boys case, when's the first time in the process that the case could have had a different result? Yeah, let's hear it, Sorothy.
Okay, I guess even with just like the first step, like with the crime, if I forget their names, like if the two ladies did not step down from the train cart and say that they were raped by these boys, then the whole, like this, I guess the entire case itself wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Piggybacking off of, how do you pronounce your name?
Shruti.
Shruti. I also think like the step of the investigation was just completely left out of the process.
Good. Both of those are great answers. Michi, I think I saw some movement from you, although I've lost you now.
Oh, I was just about to say, like, well, even if like they were falsely charged with a crime, yeah, the investigation part, like Amy said, would have been where it's like they went wrong because it was up to the cops to like investigate and see if they actually did the crime or not.
Just the cops?
And is it prosecution?
What? Yeah. And what about once they had a defense lawyer?
And the lawyers.
Yeah. So that investigation piece, even if the
didn't they have like a real estate lawyer or something like that? They weren't given a good lawyer in the first place.
It was a lawyer from Tennessee and then a retired lawyer.
Yeah, if I can invite you to maybe look at, wow, it would have been nice to have a criminal lawyer, right, instead of a real estate lawyer. That would have been good. So certainly in the crime itself, you know, we could have gotten a better result there, or more just result. Sawyer.
Thinking back on all of this and also looking back at it, considering the people at the time, try to get someone who was not a Jewish lawyer, because it was even presented in the case that there was segregation. There was already bigotry against the lawyer to begin with because he was Jewish. And most of the people in the South at that time were Christians. So they already didn't like him. So that would also play a factor during the time.
So that probably would have happened around the initial appearance or the initial hearing, you know, because that's when the lawyer would have been appointed. So that's a part of the process when we could have had a different result. Any other thoughts?
Are we still on like where it first went wrong, or just everything that went wrong with it?
Well, I'm really just kind of looking at the process itself and saying, you know, where in the process might we have had a different result? So I mean, so far every step, right?
Right.
Jury selection. They should have picked like a non-biased jury.
Jury selection.
Yeah.
And we haven't missed a step yet, right? What about the trial itself?
I want to say that I think is that when I was thinking about it, it was just really when it was the people that they had, it was the investigation, and it was also the way that things were presented, if that makes sense. Just everything that they did. They could have done a better job of it.
Yeah, pretty much at every step, right, Christiane?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What about this though? I thought about this because it was presented. If the let's not say we get rid of the lawyer. Now, if the lawyer himself were to conduct his cross-examination with one of the women, what if he had gone about it a different direction? Because it was even stated within the information we were given that he thought he was making a strong case. But every time he would press for more information out of these women, it made the jury and the people around him present him more.
So Sawyer, are you speaking about Libowitz right now?
Yes.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
So like I think. Oh, you can go ahead. Sorry.
no, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, I think like what Sawyer was really reiterating on was like from the video we saw that the jury and the people felt more as if the trial was a trial, like I guess a case, I guess attacking their their Southern backgrounds and like how their way of living as or from what I understood, as opposed to a trial being about whether these boys had actually raped these two women or if it was just an allegation.
Yeah.
Um,
How important was socioeconomic status? How important was money?
Very important, because especially when it came to getting that lawyer, like I know from the video the boys had to pull in all their money from like all their families. I think they said it was like $60 just to go looking for a lawyer, as opposed to like people who had more money or were able to afford that lawyer had it easier.
Why were the young men on the train in the first place?
Work.
Looking, yeah.
Couldn't get a job in the town they were in, right? And they had to get on the train to go find a day job somewhere else. And what about the accusers? Oh, well, Sophie.
I was just going to say the accusers were also in a really bad situation. And it kind of came up when like Ruby came in, was like, oh, actually I was making it up because she felt threatened by the other girl because they were worried about them going to jail just for being on the train. And so they felt threatened and they made an accusation.
Yeah. And why were they on the train in the first place?
Because they were looking for work.
Looking for work. Right. Yeah. Excellent.
Here's a question I have that really makes me think about all the stuff that was presented when the women were on stands. I mean, on the stand. One, I forget which one it is, but she was dense in thinking that the reason why the defense attorney kept pointing to a toy train as a reference material, as a model, whether or not she was where in the train she was located, she wasn't able to answer. And to lead into that, because one of the individuals that was brought up said, I didn't see any women on the train. That would possibly give position to where some of the individuals were at the time in which this happened, and whether or not she was in the same train cart as.
Yeah, I think today most scholars would agree that the women were not in the same part of the train as the young men were. Was your point more about the fact that she wouldn't give in to the model train, and so he couldn't prove that they were in two different places?
Yes.
Yeah, if I can encourage you guys, Dr. Tim Levine will be presenting to us one day this week, and he is a scholar at the University of Alabama in Birmingham, and his work is in deception. He's going to be talking about, do people lie, and why do they lie, and when do they lie, and how do lies work? And that's where his research is in, and it's a fascinating question. And Ruby Bates, well, actually both accusers have some really interesting things that they do when it comes to deception. It's certainly worth paying attention to that. So I won't go too deep into that, but you're absolutely on the right path. Right? That is absolutely the kind of things that we want to be looking at.
Can I make a comment on something that was said earlier in
Sure.
the call? When Sawyer, you were talking about the attorney and having him being from like Jewish background, being from New York. I actually think that was really important to the case because it helped to garner national attention. One thing about the Birmingham Civil Rights Movement is they had tried it in other places, but because there was such a strong antagonist, they were able to gain that national attention to change the minds of the people. It's like, oh, we know what's going on in the South, but then you see people getting hosed and dogs being unleashed on them. So I think when he took his platform in Alabama and they were like, oh, they did someone we love like this, Alabama is wrong. And I think that helped to get the minds of other people involved.
I mean, I don't, I'm sorry, Mr. Blankenship.
Well, I'll come back to you, okay? If you'll just let me bookmark you just for a minute. If you think about the roles in the courtroom, Amy, to your point, I'm going to talk about in the morning about the fact that we have 7 roles in the courtroom. And if you start going through in your head, it's real easy. You'll go, well, yeah, there's a judge, there's a defense attorney, there's a prosecutor, there's a jury, and you'll start running, and you'll get to 6, and you'll only be able to find 6 roles in the courtroom. You're like, wait a minute, what's the 7th role? Well, the 7th role in the courtroom is society. We forget about that sometimes. It's easy to see in the Scottsboro Boys case because when the trial started, thousands of whites that weren't from Scottsboro surrounded the courthouse, and the windows were open because it was hot. And when something happened in the courtroom that the people outside liked, they cheered. And when something happened they didn't like, they booed. So does society have a role in the courtroom? Absolutely. And not only, today we don't stand outside the courtroom and cheer, but we do it on social media, don't we? We do it on Instagram and TikTok and all that, right? So is that still a real thing that impacts, courtrooms today? Yes. And are we polarized today based on race or religion? Absolutely. And so, Amy, you're absolutely right. What happened in the Scottsboro Boys trial was society actually became real in the courtroom. And it didn't just do it locally, it did it globally. There were people all over the world who were marching and raising money and supporting and not supporting the Scottsboro Boys, maybe for the first time in history, based on that, on just an unjust trial or unjust prosecution banner. Sawyer?
Well, as a piggybacking on what Amy said, it's not just that. It was that, let's say the Scottsboro boys were actually tried somewhere else. They would have more of a chance because of the culture in which they would be tried in, or society they would be tried in. In the South, because there was so much prejudice on anyone who was either a communist, had a different religion, or their skin color, it wouldn't have gone the way it was supposed to.
So Brandon, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pipe in here a little bit. Sawyer, you have some work to do with your team. Your teams, y'all are coming up with great stuff from each of your teams right now. And as a team, that's what you're going to determine. And you're going to have to think about it from all these different 7 positions as we walk you through the week. And what I'm excited about is, Brandon, I wish we could record this, play it back for them each day to see how they change and how much deeper they dive in to where we get to you on Saturday. What I do like is you all are steps ahead of where we were last year with a face-to-face group at this point on a Sunday evening.
Yeah, excellent. So let's bring it to a close there, and I'm going to encourage you guys in this way. You're on the right road. That you're absolutely thinking the right thinking. You've obviously actually explored the case. Excellent work on that. We'll pick back up in the morning.